Board. Hello, welcome to the webinar. My name is Jamie Lee, and this is a live training, how to bounce back from a negative review. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides ready for you. Okay. Here I am. And this is the interactive training for smart women. Okay, my name is Jamie Lee. I'm a certified coach. I am a coach specializes in leadership and negotiation for smart women. I help smart women advocate, lead, and negotiate with self-confidence. I have had my share of mixed and strange reviews as an employee in the past one in my previous life. I've once worked for a tech company, and at this tech company, I had a one-on-one with the CTO who told me at the end that I should go work for nonprofits. And I was like, I'm working for this tech company right now, which is not a nonprofit. Does it mean that I shouldn't be here? It was kind of strange for me to hear from him that I should go work for nonprofits when I was clearly not working for a nonprofit. I was working with him. And at the same company, the CEO also told me that I should smile more. You know, it's one of these things you hear, you're like, would they say the same thing to a guy? You know, maybe not. And I'm happy to tell you, years after that review, I am now working for myself as a coach where I do make profits and I am smiling a lot more. So, you know, maybe in hindsight, their advice had some grain of truth. I got a grateful. Okay. So what can you expect from this webinar? I have prepared a lot of content for you, a lot of valuable content. I want you to really work it, apply it, test it. I want to teach you my 4-step process that I teach all of my coaching clients so that you can bounce back from a negative review. And I'm going to share with you a script for how to respond like a pro to a negative review so that you can see, you know, what are the principles? What is the mindset? Like, why am I suggesting this particular script so that you can write your own, or you can apply the mindset and the strategies and the principles to your situation. And if this content resonates with you, I invited you work with me. And at any time, you can go to jamieleecoach.com/apply to submit a quick application for a 60-minute consultation with me so that you can see if coaching with me would be a slam dunk fit for you. So after a review, have you ever wanted to beat yourself up, be unkind to yourself, you know, say nasty things to yourself, indulge in shame and blame, or get angry and defensive? You know, they shouldn't have said that. It's not my fault. It's their fault. You know, something's wrong with them, not with me. Have you ever wanted to quit your job? And if you have said yes to any of those above, just know that you're not alone. I mean, I myself have experienced all of those things. And in fact, when I researched, are performance reviews effective? I was really surprised to find the overwhelming result on google.com where that a lot of people, a lot of experts think that performance reviews are not very effective. According to Gallup, only 14% of employees strongly agree that performance review actually inspired them to improve. And there's another research done by American Psychological Association. And in this research, they found that about a third of the time after the review, the performance actually went down, not up. So if you feel like the performance review was negative or you're feeling demotivated, you're not alone. So I want to give you a hypothetical situation, okay, so that we could anchor this conversation. What would you say if you went to your review and your employer was like, I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed in your performance this past quarter. I needed you to produce twice the amount you did to meet the team-wide goal. Now we're going to fall behind our competitor. And I need you to take your job seriously. Next time, please tell me right away if you struggle with meeting your quota. Stern face. how would you respond? What would you say to that? What would you feel? How would you show up? And I thought about like, without the coaching tools that I have now, how would I have responded to that? And I think there would be at least two knee-jerk reactions. The first would be, are you kidding me? Seriously? This quarter, I had to pick up the slack for John, who took 3 days off from work right before our launch date. And I worked day and night to make the ABC deal work because Pat neglected to keep the client in the loop, even though it's Pat's account. If I could have met the quota with everything that's going on, I would have. But since no one is doing their job around here, it's all falling on me. If anyone's taking their job seriously, it's me. Yeah, I'd be like, me, I'm doing my job seriously. What's wrong with you? Are you kidding me? I'd be angry, defensive. And in this place of feeling anger and defensive, I'd want to complain about my job. I'd want to, put up walls, maybe put up a fight with my boss, try to show them they're wrong. How could you not miss John and Pat? They're not doing their jobs, right? And then I think, what would be the impact of that if I really did that? Like, if I really gave into that knee-jerk reaction, that temptation to just like shame and blame other people, I see, maybe there'll be a detriment to the relationship that I had with my boss. My relationship with John and Pat would definitely not be the same after this conversation, right? I wouldn't feel good. I would feel terrible. I would feel angry. And I myself, I don't deal well with anger. I just burn, right? And I might burn myself out because I feel like I'm the victim of the situation. I have to carry all the weight. Why is it like this? It's so not fair. And I would just be in this like mind spin about how it's not fair and those people are not doing their jobs. This shouldn't be happening. I feel bad. I burn out from my emotional and mental mind spin. So there's another option, right? Instead of blaming and shaming, I could be like, oh, it's all my fault. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I disappointed you. I created all this burden for our team. I know I'm making it hard on everyone. I feel terrible. I really, really feel terrible. I know I'm exaggerating here, but I mean, honest to God, before the coaching tools that I've learned and applied to myself, I really honestly think that this would have been my reaction. Like, this is how I would have responded. I would have like made it all mean that I was doing it all wrong, shame on me, it's all my fault, I feel terrible, oh my God, I'm so bad. I would have just made it mean all the terrible things about me and just like wallow in the shame and like the self-judgment and the self-hate. I just know because I've done it. And that also feels terrible and it doesn't help me move forward. It doesn't help me like come up with solutions. It just makes me feel bad. It just like gives me more evidence to think that I'm not good enough and maybe I shouldn't be here, right? So these options, number one, number two, yeah, they're, as Emily pointed out, they're, not a lot of balance in these options. I've definitely exaggerated it to make a point. And I also think there is an option 3, if not more. So, what would your option 3 be? Like, if you had the same situation happen to you where your boss is like, I'm disappointed, you're not pulling your weight, I need you to make up the numbers, right? What would your option 3 be for a constructive problem solving conversation where it's not about pointing fingers, not blaming other people, or not making it mean all the terrible things about you? Like, what would your option 3 be? Okay. So, yeah, so Emily, thanks for sharing. It's hard to overcome the feeling of injustice, right? So, why is it hard? We'll get to the option 3. I have a sample script available for you, and I'm going to walk you through it just, in a little bit. But let's address that. why is it hard? Okay, we have somebody who has an option three. Option three would be for the boss to tell us what are the attributes of a top performer. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we want the boss to tell us what we can do, but how do we respond, right? So the question is like, how can we respond in the moment when they tell us they're disappointed in us so that we can have that constructive problem-solving conversation, right? When we want the boss to tell us what are the attributes of a top performer, that's great, but like it's all in their court still, right? How do we bring the power back in our court so that, okay, we heard the response, we got the feedback, how do we move forward in a way that is constructive? Okay, Jenny says, what would you have done differently, or what exactly should have been done? Excellent. Okay, so Jenny suggests, asking these open-ended questions. What would you have done? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? I mean, I'm curious, like, what are your suggestions? That's great. That's really, really good. So, we have wisdom, right? We know that there is a third option available. And I also know from my own experience that even though we know that there is a third option available, we don't always take it. We don't always do it. We don't always take action on what we know is going to help us move forward. And so the question is why? And I want to offer that there is a simple solution to the question why we struggle and why we don't always take action when we get negative feedback. It's a really simple solution, and there's a really simple answer to it. And the reason why we don't is because, as Emily highlighted, it's like this feeling, right? The negative feelings that we experience when we get a negative feedback. We can feel disappointed, powerless, we can feel shame, resentful, afraid, anxious. I mean, these are just some examples, right? These are definitely not all of the emotions that you could experience. Is some examples that I thought of, that I saw some of my clients experience, that I have experienced. Yeah, and there's angst, as Jenny pointed out. Like it's like we feel a negative emotion when we get feedback that we don't agree with, that we don't appreciate. And there is this misconception. We have a lot of misconceptions about emotions in society. We feel like we shouldn't feel bad. We shouldn't be feeling powerless. We shouldn't be feeling shame. We shouldn't be feeling resentful. We shouldn't be feeling frustrated. We shouldn't be afraid. We shouldn't be anxious. Like I was just coaching this client this morning, and she's like, people should be happy all the time around me. I'm like, why? Why do you think that? Why do we think that? But we've been conditioned by society, by people around us, to think that we should always be happy. And for me, when I think I should always be happy, that is like a very powerless thing to think, because I'm like, I'm not always happy. Half the time I feel terrible. Half the time I feel bad. Like, should I not be this way? And then I started questioning myself, and then that leads to shame. Like, wait, is there something wrong with me? Should I not be this way? Right? And then I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I'm resentful, I'm frustrated, right? So thinking that we should always be happy is one of the most unhappy thoughts that we can think. The reality is, half the time we're not going to feel good. Half the time we are going to experience some of these negative emotions. And when we get feedback that we don't agree with, or we get an underwhelming raise, yeah, of course, we're going to feel bad, right? So let's not make it mean something bad when we feel bad. It's okay. It's something that we can allow. There's no emotion that we cannot allow. There's no emotion that we cannot process. But when we tell ourselves we shouldn't be feeling bad, we feel worse and we get stuck. And here's one more myth about these negative emotions, is that the negative emotion is caused by an external circumstance, that the emotion is caused by other people, by the feedback, by our boss, by John and Pat, right? And And we feel like those things are causing our emotions. We feel powerless to change the situation. And again, we feel just worse, we feel stuck, more resentful, more shame, and then the spiral just continues. And usually, a lot of my women clients, really smart women clients, tell me they just feel exhausted as a result because they're trying not to feel these emotions. They're trying to suppress these emotions because they feel like they shouldn't be feeling bad. And at the same time, they feel powerless to change the situation that they feel is causing their negative emotion. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Like, how do we find the solution to this, right? But first, I just want to offer that if you are, or if you ever experience these negative emotions like shame, frustration, anger, resentment, powerlessness, like there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing. You're perfectly human. And I'm saying that because I myself have been in that pool of negative emotion for so long in my career. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me, but I kept telling myself that there was something wrong with me for feeling bad, and I felt even worse, and then I felt depressed, and right? You are not defined by your emotion. You're not defined by your review. You're not defined by other people's opinions of you. You're not defined by your salary. You are not defined by your raise. You're not defined by your bonus. You are defined by how you bounce back. And that is completely 100% in your court. You can do it. So I wanted to share some examples, and I found these examples online where there are a lot of stories of women in the media, right? So here are some women who got some really bad reviews. They even got fired, and yet they bounced back and have become uber successful. I mean, Oprah Winfrey, she's a multi-billionaire. According to Wikipedia, she's $2.9 billion net worth. She was once fired from the evening news because she was too emotional. What? Because she got too involved emotionally with the people she was interviewing. And now she's Oprah Winfrey. And I want to ask you, who is the Oprah Winfrey of your industry? Like, who's that one person who, against all odds and all like the rejection and the bad press and the bad reputation, like they've just risen through all of it and proven all those naysayers wrong. There's somebody, right, in your industry. Like, I think about in my industry, there's my mentor, my trainer, and multimillionaire. And a lot of people were telling you you're being too ambitious, you're being, whatever. You can't do that as a coach, right? Nora Lum, who is Awkwafina. I'm a huge fan of Awkwafina. She's a rapper, comedian, award-winning movie star, right? And when she was a rapper, she would go to these open mics, and then she got kicked off the shows because they were telling her Awkwafina is a joke. Like, they couldn't appreciate that she's so talented, she could make rap funny. And there's Anna Wintour, fashion editor of Vogue, and she's also very, very successful right now. She was once fired because her shoots were considered too edgy. Yeah. So Emily is sharing. Okay, I really appreciate that perspective. You're not defined by your mistake, but rather how you respond to the mistake. Yeah, maybe you made a mistake. Okay, yeah. I mean, you're only human. Humans make mistakes, and that's how we learn. It's something I have heard before, but never thought to apply to less than ideal review. Yeah, what if there's nothing wrong with you for making a mistake? It's how do we respond from here? How do we respond from the mistake? What do we choose to learn from the mistake? How do we choose to respond to this review and grow from it? Yeah, because this is what all these people did. For Oprah Winfrey, Anna Wintour, they lost their jobs, but they're like, okay, well, let me go try it elsewhere. Let me go do my own thing. And they became very, very successful. Here's one thing none of these women did. None of these women made the negative feedback mean that they weren't good enough for their dreams. They just kept at it, and until they succeeded. Okay, so here's how to bounce back in 4 steps. Let's identify the root cause of the emotion. Like when we feel like there's injustice, when we feel resentful, when we feel like it's, like just bad, when we feel shame, frustration, let's identify the root cause of the emotion. Let's identify why we feel a negative emotion or why we take negative action so that we can solve for it. And let's evaluate the valuation neutrally. Like words can be said about you, you can get feedback, but we can also evaluate it from feeling neutral. If we can identify the source of why we feel a negative emotion, we can solve for it. If we can solve for it, we can also choose to see the circumstance of your review from a completely neutral stand of perspective. Neutrality is available to you. And when you can choose to see the situation from neutrality, you can objectively see what was said, what was not said, and what you want to do differently in the future from a powerful stance where you get to decide, right? And that's because you are taking ownership for how you feel, you're taking ownership for your actions, you're taking ownership for how you respond from here on out, how you grow here on out. When you take ownership of the results, you have the power to change the results. And you also get to decide who you will be. Think about that. Like the review and the feedback that you get tells you how you've done in the past. But who you will be in the future is 100% up to you. Who you get to be in the future and how you respond and who you are becoming is 100% your choice. So that's where you have the power and you get to take responsibility, you get to take ownership and change the situation. So I want to help you apply this, okay? So let's say you got a review or you got some feedback that does not make you happy or you don't really agree with. Let's write it down. Like, write down what had happened, get specific. And when you think about the review, it's really tempting to just be like, well, my job sucks. My boss is biased. Pat and John, they never pull their weight. It's terrible. All these people are yes people. Nothing ever gets done. Like it's really tempting to just write down blanket statements like that, but they make us feel terrible and offer no solutions. So the first thing is write down exactly what was said. Write down like what specifically was said. Who said it? How did you respond? What was decided? What were the next steps? Or if they haven't been decided, what are they? So that we can identify the solution. You can decide for yourself how you want to move forward. And get specific. And then ask yourself, okay, if I feel shame, if I feel like, there is injustice, if I feel like bad, a very specific type, a flavor of bad, let's find out why. What is the root cause of this emotion so that I can solve for it? So let's say, like in the hypothetical situation I gave you where the manager is saying they're disappointed in you. Okay, so they said they're disappointed in you. Okay, so what? What does it mean? Why is it a problem for you? And when you hear that, it might be really tempting to be like, because I feel bad. Okay, so, but let's get curious. Let's get like really still and like, let's get curious and sit with ourselves like, okay, but why are we feeling bad? Why are we feeling shame? Right? And if your mind's rushing to the worst possible outcome, let's just identify what it is so that we can observe it and we can find a solution for it. So I thought about the hypothetical situation I offered you, which is, the boss saying, I'm disappointed in you. You should have pulled your weight, you should have, you didn't meet your quota, right? I would have thought, okay, the worst possible outcome is that I get fired. The worst possible outcome is I might lose my job. Okay. Or I could also make it mean that the boss is mad at me. And this is a problem for me because I don't like it when people are mad at me. I don't want people to be mad at me. I don't want my boss to be mad at me. And then I'd ask myself again, why? Okay, so why don't I want the boss to be mad at me? Why is that a problem if he is? Some people get upset. Sometimes they get upset for what they're thinking. That has nothing to do with you, right? But why do you think it's a problem that the boss is upset? And then I would think, well, if the boss is upset with me, maybe it means I'm not good enough. Like, oh, okay. So I'm making the negative review mean that I'm not good enough. And when I think I'm not good enough, I feel terrible. Okay, so I know the root cause of my emotion. And it's always going to be what you make the situation, the circumstance, or the words, what are you making it mean in your mind, right? And that's because what we make it mean, the thoughts in our minds, cause our emotions. And our emotions drive our actions. So it's very helpful. It's very instructive, insightful to know exactly what we are making it mean. Even if you think it's like so obvious, it really helps to write it down on paper. Because when you write it down on paper, you take it out of your mind and you get to observe it. It's like, oh, this is the sentence in my mind that's causing a negative emotion, that's driving, either inaction or a different type of action that's causing me to just, have more evidence for the thought that maybe I'm not good enough, I might get fired, and it's causing more negative emotion. And then it kind of like spirals, right? So like stop the spiral, put a pause on it, put it on paper, just observe it. It's like, oh, that's fascinating. It's interesting that I'm thinking that. Yeah. Because in the example that I gave you, no one said that I'm not good enough. No part of that was I'm not good enough, or that he doesn't like me, he hates me, or that I might get fired, I might lose my job, right? But this is what I'm making it mean. And if I know what I'm making it mean, I also know how I can shift my thinking around it so that I can get to a neutral place. Because when I know what it is holding me back from neutrality, I have the power to change it. And when you have the power to change it, I mean, that's the secret to the universe, right? And imagine that you can feel neutral about what was said, about what had happened, that like you don't feel terrible, you don't immediately go to shame. They could just, and you don't have to feel good about it either. You could just feel like it's just neutral. It's neither good nor bad. And I want to offer that this is totally available to you. There's always an option to you. And when I offer that to people, they're like, but how? It takes time, it takes effort, it is a skill, right? We need to kind of be able to train our brain to go to neutrality instead of just wallowing in the negative place that's always gonna want to go to as a knee-jerk reaction. And that's because I talked about this in the last webinar, because we have itty bitty shitty committees in our brain. The brain that tells us to always be safe, to maintain the status quo, never take a risk. Who do you think you are? Stay small, stay quiet, stay safe, right? It's always good. That itty bitty shitty committee is always going to tempt you to go to the worst case scenario, or always going to tempt you to think about the worst possible thing that you could think, that other people could think, right? But with effort, with time, with focus, you can get to a place of neutrality, right? Because it's not true that you should always be happy. It's not true that you should always feel good, or that you're always right. or that you're perfect or correct. These are unrealistic ideals, expectations that we set ourselves. Uh, when we set ourselves up to meet them, we set ourselves up to fail, right, and to feel bad. And here's another truth: circumstances, what people say, what people do, what was said at your review, the money you got, neutral until we choose our thoughts about them. Like, think about that. Like, if you didn't think, oh, I had a bad review, neutral. If you don't think, that shouldn't have happened, neutral. If I didn't think, oh, I'm not good enough, neutral. Completely neutral. It's just events. Just people are just saying words. People are just exchanging ideas. Neutral, right? And so from that place of neutrality, then you get your power back to decide, okay, now how do I respond? How do I evaluate from a very neutral place so I know how to be respectful, collaborative, constructive, if that's what you want to be, right? So from there, once you've gained neutrality, you can take ownership, like full ownership of the result, full ownership of, what was said or what was not said, right? But why is it hard? Why is it hard? It's because it totally goes against our socialization, especially for us women. We've been taught that emotions are caused by other people. We've been taught that we cause other people's emotions. Like, how many times when we were very young, we're told, don't do that, you're gonna hurt little Susie's feelings, right? Or that, we have to be good and quiet or attentive to other people's feelings. This is messaging that we get as very young girls. And when we internalize that, we just feel powerless. Yeah, Emily pointed out, you lose your power when you let the negative interpretations take over. Absolutely, yeah. And so what is the impact of us thinking that our emotions are caused by other people, that we cause other people's emotions? Then we think, and also that we need to take care of other people's emotions, right? I mean, it's such BS. I know we have smart women, attending this webinar, and that is, it holds us back, because then when we internalize this, we think that it's bad to, take care of our own needs, stand up and say what is on our mind, ask for what we want, to brag, to honestly, to feel good, and to say that, I am valuable as an employee. I am somebody who could rise up through the ranks, right? We think that it's bad to brag. Like, so many of my clients, all super smart, all super ambitious, super competent, like, and even me, like, I've had this thought, if I speak up and ask for what I want, if I speak up and say, you know what, I really appreciate that feedback and I really want to grow, I want to become, promoted and like make more money. Like, I think if I can't say that, because then that would mean I'm being aggressive and assertive, and that's not a feminine quality. And why? It's because we've been taught that we have to take care of other people's feelings. We can't have other people feel intimidated, or we can't have other people feel like, that we're doing something bad, because if they feel a certain way about us, then it's going to impact us badly, right? And this not only results in what's been called a tiara syndrome, where you wait for the recognition, you wait for the reward, thinking that if you keep your head down and do good work and not brag and not ask for things, that kind of like a Prince Charming, right? Wait for your coronation. Thank you. Yeah. It's like you wait to be Meghan Markle, right? How many people get to be Meghan Markle? Not a lot, but we think we wait. And this kind of mentality kind of spills over into the workplace. And I'm speaking from my own experience, where I did this amazing thing, and I secured the company like $100,000 in cost savings. And I thought, now I just wait for my coronation, for my tiara. I don't need to wait. I mean, I don't need to ask. I should just wait, because that's That's what Disney princesses do. I didn't think it consciously, but that's what I was thinking unconsciously. That's what good girls do. And did I get that raise? Did I get that promotion? No, no. And the reason why I bring this up in the conversation about a negative feedback is sometimes my clients are surprised and disappointed when they don't get the raise that they want because they didn't ask for it. They didn't ask for the 15% bonus. They didn't ask to be promoted to director. And then they're like, why didn't I get the promotion? Why did John and Pat get it? I didn't ask. Well, why didn't you ask? Because we were waiting. Why were you waiting? Because you thought that's what good girls do. Why do you think good girls do that? Because good girls don't hurt other people's feelings by telling people what they want. Such BS that holds us back in such a big way, right? And this results in self-advocacy debt. This results in the gap between your own potential and people's perception of what you're capable of keeps growing. And so you need to make up this gap in a drastic way, right? And it doesn't help you. You got to dig yourself out of the debt. And how do you do it? Take ownership. You're not responsible for other people's feelings. They are not responsible for your feelings. We are responsible for our own feelings. If we take ownership for our feeling, that means we take ownership for the interpretation that we're giving the negative feedback. We take ownership of it, then we have the power to change it. When we have the power to change it, we have the power to feel a different emotion and to take different action. So simple, so profound, and not easy. It's because of all the socialization, all the training. Our brain has been trained to think this way, right? And so it takes effort to shift our mindset, shift our emotions, shift our behavior, and shift our results. But imagine that you could, because you can. I've done it. If I've done it, you can do it. You can do it. Anyone can do this. And in fact, my clients do. And so can you. With time, effort, focus, with support, you can do it. And you can decide who you are becoming, who you want to be. This is my definition of authenticity. Authenticity is not just who you're most comfortable being, but it's who you are growing into. Your past does not limit your future. Oprah Winfrey, her past did not limit her future. Awkwafina, her past did not limit her future. Anna Wintour, her past did not limit her future. Think about the women that you look up to. Women, who've done amazing things. And when you think about them, you're like, oh my God, I can do it too, right? And they did it because they didn't think, oh, so-and-so told me that I made a mistake, and this means I'm not good enough. My CTO once told me that I should go work for nonprofits. My CEO once told me that I should smile more, right? And I could have meant it mean that there was something wrong with me. My brain really didn't want me to. And I have to be completely honest. I did feel bad. I felt shame. I felt like maybe, I don't belong. Maybe I can never make it in business. Maybe, Okay, so long story short, when I look back on that experience, I do see there was truth to it, because I wasn't smiling, because I wasn't happy, because I wasn't in my right job. I was in my right career. So I found my right career. I was able to see that, yeah, maybe I didn't fit there, but I was able to find my own career because I decided what those people thought about me did not limit who I am capable of becoming. Your self-belief is 100% your property. You get to decide who you're becoming. You get to decide who you want to be, and you get to decide what you choose to believe about you, no matter what is said or done by other people, no matter what was your review in the past. That is where your power is. And this is the root of your self-confidence. Imagine you really get to decide. You got to decide that you're fully capable of achieving your dreams. You'll be unstoppable. No one can stop you. And from there, you have your own back. You trust yourself to do the things because your opinion of you, your opinion of your future self is bigger than anyone's opinion of your past self, right? And and from there, with that self-confidence, with that self-belief in you, then you decide, okay, how do I respond to this feedback? Because I want to respond as my future self would, right? The fastest way to become your future self is to think, to feel, to act as if you are already that person. So respond as your future self would. Okay. So let's revisit this review. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm disappointed in you, in your performance. I needed you to produce twice the amount, and now we're going to fall behind. I need you to take your job more seriously. Next time, please tell me right away if you struggle with meeting your quota on time. Like, what if we could just evaluate this feedback from a very neutral point of view? Instead of rushing to the conclusion that there's something wrong with you, I might lose my job, right? They're mad at me. What if we just say, okay, these are the words that were said. I don't have to make it mean something negative about me, right? These are my boss's perspectives. These are my boss's words. How do I want to respond? How do I want to show up? For me, like when I think about my future self, I want to be authoritative. I want to be decisive. I want to be like authoritative in a leader way, right? Not kind of not like in a bossy way, but authoritative, but in a certain way, like certain that I have the answers, that I am capable, that I do believe in me. And I want to be poised. I want to be calm under pressure. I want to bring grace to my interactions. And also, I want to be curious. Like, I always want to bring that curiosity to every conversation. Like, what if there is room to grow? What if, what if there is truth to the statement that that I can grow, I can do better, right? So then I'm curious. Okay, what are their thoughts? What are my boss's thoughts? What is there? What are things that? Thank you, Emily. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I had this great line. Don't get furious, get curious. And exactly. What if we got curious, not furious? So here's my suggestion on how to respond from that place of like, this is who I want to be in the future. From the perspective of my future self, who is authoritative, poised, and curious, I'd say, first of all, I appreciate your feedback and your willingness to work with me the next time I struggle. I hear that you're disappointed with my performance and that you believe I'm not taking my job seriously. And the boss would be like, yeah, that's right. That's what I said. What would I need to do to demonstrate my commitment to this job? And the boss would be like, well, okay, I didn't expect this question. Let me think about this. Say, you know what? If you met your quota, that'd be great. Thank you. I'm committed to adding value and doing the best I can to meet the expectation of this job. That's why I like to ask for your help today in clarifying my job description, so I know what to prioritize and what to say no to. Because honestly, when I look back, I see that I was just taking on all this work because I thought they were all important. But maybe if you and I sat together and reviewed our priorities and got in alignment, I'd be able to make better decisions moving forward. How would that sound to you? The boss be like, let's do it. Let's set up a time. Let's review your priorities. I want to help you because it's my job to help you succeed. Okay. So here are 3 things that I want to highlight in the script that I just shared with you. First of all, start with appreciation. In every workplace conversation, if you can, start with appreciation. Just say, I appreciate that. I hear you. You do this and you demonstrate your capacity to handle feedback with poise and grace. Leaders get feedback all the time, and you want to be able to demonstrate, yeah, I can handle it. and I can appreciate it, right? You don't have to agree with it. You could just be like, I appreciate that, you took the time to share your thoughts with me very neutrally. And when you start with appreciation, people feel heard, people feel appreciated, and that creates possibility that can generate rapport and connection. Tell them what you heard, even if it's negative feedback. Okay, I hear that you feel disappointed. Tell them what you hear to be their emotion. Like, tell them, I hear how you feel and what you think. Reflect back, and reflect back using their words. By the way, so many people confuse this with conceding, and it is not. It is not conceding your point. Even if you don't agree with what they have to say, when people don't feel heard, they're not going to be able to hear you, especially in the workplace when you work with bosses and leaders who have a very assertive kind of style. If those people don't feel that you heard them, they're going to shut down. So if you want to create a conversation where you can move forward, tell them, oh, I hear you, I hear that you're frustrated. Okay, when you just say it like that, just neutrally, I see that you're frustrated. Like, you're not agreeing with them, you're not saying that they're right to be frustrated, just saying, I see you. Okay? And then from there, get curious, ask open-ended questions, ask for clarity, ask for examples. Okay, tell me, if you feel I made a mistake, tell me, like, what could have I done better? What do you think would have been a better response, right? And don't ask questions with assumptions. Don't ask questions like, oh, I'm so sorry, I know I did a terrible thing, I'm really bad at this, and tell me, like, is it wrong if I do it this way, right? Just sense how there's a different energy when you say, is it wrong, right? Or as opposed to, what would your suggestion be, right? That's open, curious, neutral, no assumptions, as opposed to, is it wrong? Do you think I should do that? Right? When you ask those questions, like asking for permission, as if you're doing something wrong, right? There's the assumption that I'm doing it wrong, I might do it wrong, I shouldn't do it wrong. So write down your questions ahead of the follow-up, and just ask yourself, okay, what am I assuming here? And how do I feel when I make that assumption? Is it possible my assumptions can be wrong? Right? How can I remove the assumption and ask open, curious, neutral questions? So if you found this content relevant, if this resonated with you, I want to invite you to work with me. I want to invite you to actually, before you decide to work with me, to have a chat with me, a 60-minute conversation with me, and see if working with me would be a slam dunk fit for you. And again, I just want to highlight, it is possible for you to learn the skill of neutrality so that you can regain power in any situation at work. I have a client, she's still working with me. She got a new job offer, she negotiated it, and she's now, in a better position, making more money in a senior position. But before she did all of that, she was in a position where there were big changes in her organization, and she felt like, in her words, a polar bear on a melting ice cube. She did not feel neutral. She felt anxious and worried and powerless, and just like, she just couldn't relax. She was feeling very exhausted too. And I said, it's possible for you to feel neutral about the situation. And she's like, yeah, that's exactly what I need to be able to navigate this transition with calm, with poise, with confidence. And so she went from feeling like a polar bear on a melting ice cube to seeing herself as a swan. It was a beautiful metaphor. And we're still working on it. Like I said, this is simple and profound concept, but like, it takes effort. It takes practice to implement for you to really able to apply and benefit from it, right? And now she's like, yeah, I'm a swan. I'm a swan navigating this. And so um, you could totally learn this concept, apply it, and regain the power. For her, for my client, when she regained the power to see herself as a swan, so first she had to see that it is possible for her to be a swan, right? And then she worked on embodying that feeling of being a swan who navigates through the transition. And as a result, she ended up negotiating a position $200,000 more than she was making in the previous position, senior position, office, and she is in a position where she gets to decide, right, how she's going to balance her work and life. And she has the power, not just emotionally, but also positionally. Right? And it's all because she learned the skill of deciding who she wanted to become. She decided she wanted to become a swan, not a polar bear on a melting ice cube, right? And so when she decided she wanted to become a swan, then she knew how she wanted to show up. She decided she wanted to show up with calm, poise, grace. And when she was able to decide that's how she wanted to show up, then we were able to come up with the right words for her to say when she was going through that transition, leaving one job and going into the other. And this was for her that one critical mindset shift that was unique to her, that helped her make that transition and succeed. I don't know what it is for you, but if we get on a call and we have a conversation, I am confident I'll be able to help you identify that one critical mindset shift. And even if you decide that working with me is not a slam dunk fit, knowing that one shift could make a huge impact, not just for now, not just for how you navigate this, how you deal and how you handle the feedback, but how you handle you moving forward in your career, right? And if you decide to work with me, I help you not just, learn how to be neutral, but I want to be able to help you learn the skills so that you can also lead, deal with other people, deal with difficult situations, advocate for yourself, close that self-advocacy debt, negotiate for you, because how you negotiate for you is how you demonstrate to your employers that you can negotiate and lead for your employer. So all of this is a whole package, and you gain skills that you use for life. You're most welcome. I'm so glad that you are finding this presentation helpful. And I want to offer that, my clients generate real results from coaching with me. Alexis said that coaching with me was the smartest thing that she's ever done professionally. Not only is it a fantastic experience, it more than pays for itself immediately and then hundreds of times over during the course of your career. Love it. I love helping women not just deal with feedback, not just rise above difficult situations, but also make more money, because making more money is awesome. All right, so you know what to do. Come to jamieleecoach.com/apply if you'd like to take this work further. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to write me. All right, you're most welcome, Jenny. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Yes, I will make the recording available and I will send out the replay. That was the question that was asked. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Thank you.